Humans of the internet, welcome to this level 15 interview with Matthew, who plays Greth in our Gallant Horde. Greth has recently hit level 15, which means it's time to pick Matthew's brain about everything to do with him and Greth, which is very exciting. Hi, Matthew. Thank you for having a
Hello.
chat with me today. I'm excited to hear all Greth's secrets.
Oh, I mean, I think there's some there, but I don't know as many as I've seen some of the other interviews. I don't know if I have anything quite that juicy.
Like, Greth doesn't really do secrets.
He does, but they're just very close to his chest, and they tend to be a little less personal, I would say.
Okay. Well, we shall see if we can unravel some of them today. Before we get into Greth, though, I would like to talk about you and D&D and the Horde. So tell me a bit about how long you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons. Your tagline is that you've been playing it since it was satanic.
Well, that's a kind of an American thing. See, I started playing in the 80s, and at the time there was a bit of a moral panic about certain things, and no, seriously, there was a group of people who organized to try to stop people from playing Dungeons and Dragons specifically because they believed it led to satanic worship, cult behavior, suicide. It was a real thing. There were people who burned these books.
That happened in South Africa too, but that was apartheid, so we were already bogged out.
Yeah, there's bigger things going on here. It's just I think they needed something to do. I don't know. They need to be upset about something. So it was heavy metal and RPGs, but only Dungeons and Dragons. Like the other ones that came out, they didn't care about. Call of Cthulhu was all day.
Maybe they didn't know about those.
They didn't. That's the thing. Yeah. They just knew about this one. This was getting the media attention.
Cool. And, so a long time is the answer to the question how long you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I started playing like in the mid 80s with the basic edition. And kind of moved on to advanced. And I kind of stepped away from it for a while though, like in the 90s. So, college happened. I moved. It was harder to find a group. Back then it wasn't as easy as jumping on the internet and saying, "Hey, who wants to play?" So, and there was also, I have to admit, in the 90s, D&D wasn't as cool. So people were trying to get into other games. They were trying to do like Vampire or Shadowrun, that kind of stuff. And so it's easier to find those games in college. And D&D was considered a little, people were giving me it's a little bit of a kiddie game, really. And I'm like, I didn't think so, but it just made it hard. So I kind of
stopped again.
Oh, very much so. Although I think I started a little bit before the current coolness trend, thankfully. Just because I was getting a lot of other people into the game, and I kind of wanted them to have my view on it. Like not the new current hotness, but I thought the game was, because it's changed a lot. The thought processes even involved are very different, and some of it I'm glad to be done with, and others I like to keep.
Yeah. Well, that's a good attitude to most things, honestly. You take what you like and you throw away the rest, right?
Yeah. Well, some of it doesn't age well. I mean, yeah, and there's some stuff in D&D in the old days that did not age particularly well. But,
yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see that stuff gone. But there's some things I think people underestimate that is worth keeping. So
fair enough. I feel like we could talk about that for 3 hours, but maybe we won't. So the Horde, you joined the Horde right at the start, pretty much, as I recall. So do you want to talk about how you found the Horde?
Well, you'll be surprised, but I found it through Nicole.
I knew that.
Well, she knew it was it's COVID times, and she knew I was trying to make streaming work with our local group, but they were not enjoying it as much. I guess most of my bags of tricks were designed to work more in person, and it wasn't as fun. And I was trying to find I've always been trying to find other games. I kind of head our local group here, so even the people who now DM, I kind of train them. So they're all kind of they have their own flavor. Make no mistake, but it's all like I definitely see my influence a lot there. And so I kind of wanted to do this with people who had no idea what my preferences were, and definitely want to kind of have different house rules. Just because I'm also very much, when it comes to kind of a rules lawyer. I think all DMs do when they play, and I'm trying to okay, what's acceptable and what's not, because everyone I think here lets me slide because it's usually at my house. That kind of is a big thing, and I've kind of like I've kind of trained them all a bit on how and give them tips all the time. I'm a resource for a lot of people, so
Yep.
I don't feel like they can like object as much as maybe other people like, oh no, that's not cool, Matt. Maybe you shouldn't do that. It's a harder thing to do. So I wanted to kind of get out there, and also, I like crit roll. I saw what they were doing. I'm like, hey, that seems like fun. I could do that.
Thing because you say you're a rules lawyer and then you stepped into one of my games and I am not.
No, and but what though? I've been at this long enough though, like the even what's accepted has changed. So like there was a times where it was very I want like old school. We used to talk about crunch and fluff, like role play heavy versus rules heavy. And it's kind of moved between those two so much that like I kind of get used to different ones, and I want it honestly. Like I thought that was maybe a good thing to try to see if I could like playing something that was a lot lighter on that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Because I'm much more. I came from when we were playing death and harsh rules were just like accepted, and just getting destroyed and having multiple characters because you're probably gonna all get wiped out was standard. Hold on one second. Night dog, or sorry, my dog's smelling a squirrel, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the Horde is a fairly different kind of format because I was going for something that people could dip in and out of if they wanted to, or get really involved in if they wanted to, although that took a whole bigger level than I ever anticipated. But the like continuity of characters while still having these essentially one shots so that people could do it as often or as little as they desired. So it's not like a normal campaign at all, and we've kind of built a frame story around that, but it's still fairly, each game is a distinct thing.
It's like a West End style.
It's like a what? Sorry?
Oh, it's a West End style. It's kind of
similar.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to know what that has been like for you.
That's the other thing. This was exactly what I was kind of looking for. Something where I could, because I knew I'm kind of busy a lot, and I knew that once the pandemic ended, I'd start getting busier again. So I wanted something I could kind of drop in and out of as I needed to, but something that had still had some kind of continuity. It's fun to play a one shot with one character and never advance them ever. Just the time, but I kind of wanted to play something like that a little bit more long term, but that could still kind of meet that scheduling thing. So that was another nice thing about this. It was like, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I could kind of go in and read and see what just kind of catch the bigger events that are happening, and then just go in for the adventure. So I'm not completely uninformed, but I don't have to be there constantly either, because I have a lot of outside commitments that tend to eat into my free time.
It probably helps that you have someone handy who is there a lot and therefore can keep you updated on the TLDR.
Yeah, I knew if she, if it got that way, she would be the one to get into that. She falls into online communities and just immerses herself and just enjoys it so much. Where I don't know. I think I've been burned too many times. I'm very standoffish for a lot of times. I'm not really heavy into committing those sorts of things because the mine's been blown in bad ways on the internet too many times. It just makes once bitten, twice shy, and all that.
You don't seem standoffish. I'm just going to put that out there.
No, I mean, not now. I've seen what this place is about. I'm pretty sure you guys aren't going to try to tell me about the benefits of some pretty cult behavior or MLMs or something. Yeah. So.
Cool. Let's talk about Greth.
All right.
So probably as a direct result of how busy Matt is, Greth is relatively low key. He wafts in and out a little bit. We don't see that much of him in the text RP stuff.
Yeah.
He's definitely the quieter of the two siblings. He comes across as quite innocent. I don't know if that's real or not, though. So I guess just tell me a little bit about him and where he came from. And
all right, I kind of built him to be this way. That's why I picked Monk. I'm like, okay, that's somebody who just would kind of go off and meditate, think about things, and be very contemplative. And again, even the little bit he was living in a monastery for a long time and just kind of found out a bunch of stuff and didn't want to leave. He just realized, hey, I have a sister. I need to know this person, and she comes from a world that's very different than mine, and we need to be someplace else because neither one of our places will accept us really. And
Yeah.
so, it was like a golden opportunity. And also, he knew that she needed a place. He was trying to find a place for her. I mean, he can, after this is done, he can just head back to the monastery at the edge of the astral sea and just spend the rest of his life there if
Yeah.
he wants to. But he knew she needed something, and so he wanted to be there for her. And so, hence why he's there, but also why he just spends a lot of time alone. He's just kind of also trying to come to a decision, really, too. This is a place he kind of left and came here to figure some things out. So,
How's that going? The figuring things out.
well, I mean, he's at least less worried about his sister now, because he's worried she was just, not going to take to this, because Githyanki culture is a little mean towards anyone who's not Githyanki. So
Yep.
he's like, hopefully she just doesn't decide she's gonna, walk in there and just challenge for leadership or something weird like that. His character does. I mean, I knew Nicole wouldn't do that, but Reanth, he's worried she, that aggression wouldn't be able. Pardon me a moment. Bruce, 1 second. I gotta.
Yep.
Of course, it has to be squirrel season when I decide to.
It's all good.
Yeah,
that's what.
right.
Yeah.
Nicole's taking care of that for me, hopefully.
Cool.
No, but yeah, as I said, so that was one thing he's less concerned with. She's getting along well, kind of able to hone, her abilities here and feel at home and have a. So now that at least that part he's okay with. The other part is a little more esoteric and kind of weird, so it's harder for him to come to it. I think he's just gonna have to decide at one point or figure something out. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. Even I'm not sure what he's waiting for. I know he definitely doesn't know yet.
What is it he's trying to figure out?
Well, I know he's lived a long time in the astral sea, and he kind of fixed things and explored there a bit. And it's kind of like what he enjoyed doing. Like the monks would go out and do things out there where reality is kind of thin and bendable.
Yeah.
Where literally your mind can shape the world, and he kind of liked doing that. But then he also feels like a responsibility to contribute to his people. It's so
okay.
So he's kind of having to pick between I'm just gonna wander the astral sea forever, having adventures like Doctor Who, or trying to bring something back to his people, like knowledge and philosophy, and recreate something or create something new for them that will kind of last. There's only a few significant people in the among the Giths that are historically notable, and he wants maybe to be one of them for the right reasons. Yeah.
That's interesting, because Reanth is very much like, nah, I'm never going back. Screw them. Yeah. But Greth actually still has that connection with where he came from.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, I mean, he has more positive experiences from that than.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just because I hadn't kind of realized that was still a connection. I thought they had sort of both left.
I mean,
for the same reasons, but he clearly still has that thing, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and so that's kind of his conflict, is the thing he enjoys doing, and there's that sense of responsibility, which he thought could kind of make work maybe, but he's it's because the astral sea is just full of things long forgotten and never known, and maybe don't formally exist yet. So we always kind of hoped that the one problem would solve the other, but that's something so esoteric. It's hard to get wrapped. Something that has a neat answer to it.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. So in terms of the Horde, Greth largely came to the Horde for the sake of his sister, correct?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah, that, and he felt that this was. Well, I mean, he thought it was good for his sister, but he also thought it'd be good for him. I mean, there's different perspectives there. He realized, okay, hey, I'm living with a bunch of people who think exactly like I do.
Yep.
maybe seeing other places and other things and other people interact and live. Like he probably watches people a lot more, like not in a creepy
Yeah.
way, but
I
just
know what you mean. Yeah. People
you know,
observing.
just to kind of see how people live with a different mentality than his. He thinks that there's other ways for enlightenment other than like that monk lifestyle, and he's trying to see what other people contribute to the horde and try and get perspective that way. So he's more of a people watcher. He's probably still very quiet and sneaky, but he
Yep.
yeah
I love the idea that he's just actually like hanging out in the tavern all the time, just no one ever sees him.
yeah. I think that's how he'd prefer to do that too. Just
Yeah.
hiding under his cloak, not saying anything.
I love it. Um, okay, let's talk about what he thinks about what he sees.
Mhm.
So, my first question is, what does he think of the lady? Does he know the lady's identity at this point? Has anyone told him?
He
Has he
pays
picked that
attention.
up?
He no one's told him.
Okay,
He's just heard it from other. He's listened
picked
to
it up.
people at the tavern, and
Fair enough.
and that anything puts his mind at ease a little bit. I mean, he was willing to work with whomever as long as it didn't, as long as didn't require him to do anything terribly, something that would bother his conscience, or
Yep.
something that, or he didn't want to be in a place that would try and pit him and his sister against each other.
Yeah, I can
And so
understand
once
that.
I think he realized pretty quickly that wasn't the lady's deal.
No.
So he's pretty, I mean, like I think he's probably one of the people who was like the least concerned, even in the beginning with her acting. He's like, okay, this is the thing she needs doing and she has a reason for it. And that's fine. I don't need to know those reasons. She's not asked me to do anything that conflicts with my personal, values. And she's offered me a safe place for me and my sister to hang out and for her to find herself and for me to kind of get these valuable insights from other people and try and also focus on his own meditations. Like he was content almost immediately.
Cool. He's probably one of the very few because most
Yeah,
people had reservations about her in one way or another. At least
yeah.
at
Like I
first.
said, Astral Sea, he's seen weird, like the
Yeah.
weirder, less information situations come up more, and he's just like this. Nothing was giving him a creepy vibe, so he's just like, oh no, this is fine. It's just some people you don't need to know, that information.
Cool. What about your fellow horde members? Like, is
Mhm.
there anyone that you're, apart from your sister, obviously, that you're particularly fond of? Anyone you're particularly not fond of?
I think Greth likes.
What does he think of people?
Yeah, like I said, that's where he probably is a touch more standoffish because he's kind of not sure how involved he wants to get in these people's lives. They are bringing, a lot of their life there, and it's fine for them. But he's also trying to keep one foot here and one foot in with his other goals. He
Yeah.
knows that at some point the contract will end, and he has to decide where he's going. I mean, there's places he could go, but where he wants to go, that's kind of what he's trying to. I think the last thing he's trying to figure out is,
Hmm.
he knows what he can do. He knows that what his sister wants to do. He wants to figure out what he's going to do.
Yep.
And so, like I said, he doesn't interact with, but he does like a few people. Like he's probably pretty fond of Zinkela. She's kind of taken him under his wing a bit and helped him when he
Mhm.
was kind of pulling away from himself and not participating as much.
Yep.
He was checking on him a bit, and also she also was a little more patient with him when he was like a little like wonder-eyed, like, oh my god, you're a giant animal, how did that happen? Like she's like, oh no, that's cool, I do this, and he's like, oh, that's fun, okay. So he has like pleasant memories of that, and probably also, I think he's also fond of Jobin generally, just because Jobin's very much get the job done and have a
Yeah.
little fun while you're at it, but he doesn't go too weird into too many weird asides or anything like that.
Yeah. Is there anyone he's just like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this person?
Well, there's a certain person who owns a brain in the jar that he probably is a little irked out by.
I was wondering if that would come up.
Well, you gotta
Does he
remember,
know
like,
about? He knows about the brain in the jar.
he does, yes.
Yep. Okay.
And like I said, it's just like that's like a very exotic kind of hell, like the kind of thing. Like Ithalids will take people and break them, remove their brain and stick it in a jar and make them like a slave.
Hmm.
And the gift people have had that done to them quite a bit. So it's just like watching someone who's been tortured and broken walk around with you. I mean, might not. It's probably not even the same thing or creation thing, but to him, that is all he sees.
Yep. So does this make him not trust Wazitim?
A little bit. There's also a couple of times when like Austin did some things that kind of like he in that moment he thought, oh, he just didn't know what was going on, and he kind of imperiled the mission a little bit or kind of did his own thing, and but it's kind of with that kind of probably made him a little more like untrusting of him. I don't say he dislikes him, he's just not certain of what he's doing, and so he's a little probably more concerned, I guess, than anything. I don't think he thinks anyone here is truly evil or out to get him, or that that somebody's bad that he should get like that should be gone. He just he's wildly uncertain about Wazitim.
And I think that's fair. There's a lot to be uncertain about from the point of view of where they're both, like, as characters, where they're coming from. I can see that. So we've kind of spoken a little bit about what Greth's uncertainty about where he's going. But is there something that he wants to get out of this contract, apart from the obvious golden power that he was promised? But like, is there something he's trying to achieve in his time in the Horde that is not obvious, I guess?
Mostly exploration. He knows of the lady's power to kind of send us places, and there's a few hidden away, demi-planes and places long forgotten and lost to time that he would not mind finding and exploring and going to. It's just like the seeing new things or lost things just really get his attention and his imagination, and so like it's those kind of things are like what he is really hoping for, I guess.
How has he kind of had that? Like, are there any places he's been to that he's really been like, whoa, this is cool?
Since he joined the Horde?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would probably say, well, I mean, it kind of is because there's a couple, like, it's also one of my favorite adventures, actually. But the thing I think he loved the most is the In Search of Elements mission.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I love that, and Greth loved that. We both really liked that mission. That's like both of our favorites, because to him it was like, oh, I'm used to this. Monks challenge themselves all the time, and in ancient, they finding all these ancient places, and just everything about that was just fun for him. And even though he was in danger a lot, and his clothes got burned, obviously to make some new ones for him, it was still like the most exciting. Like to him, that was just living in that was perfect for him, and I loved it too. I love those old. They were kind of took me back to like an Indiana Jones movie or something like that, with all of us kind of not being able to depend on our usual tricks and trying to figure things out and think it through. That was so fun. I love that.
Well, and that's also one of my future questions, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Nah,
that is like very much like where it was. Like that was that was Greth's bag, totally. He would have probably done if you had a whole series of missions, he'd do them all if he could.
Yeah. So that like kind of solve the puzzle sort of vibe is the thing. Yeah.
Also just challenges too, like overcoming some kind of adversity that without like having, because I mean he'll take somebody out if he has to, but it's not his preferred method of doing it. Like if he could just overcut and do some great feats, or like say he wouldn't mind like a fighting pit, because he knows that that's kind of like not necessarily everyone's kind of down, but one of the missions where things get a little super violent, he's just like, I'm doing this, but I'd rather be home.
Oh, place. Cool. That's cool. That I kind of like that, because no one else has mentioned that mission as being a particular highlight. But
I love that. That was like I said, me and Greth were on the same vibe with that one. We liked that one a lot.
Cool. That's useful. See, useful information. In terms of just things that have happened while you've been in the Horde, do you have a favorite moment, a thing that happened that was just like, this is super cool? Both you as a player and your character. They don't have to be the same, obviously, but
I think the mission with the eggs.
The mission.
Where we're all cracking those things open and eating them.
The bag of beans. Yep.
Bag of beans.
Yep.
That was
that has had far-reaching effects for Greth.
Well, yeah, it was like I don't know, like Greth was a lot more of a mixed bag than for me as a player.
Yeah.
Just because like I mean, he was not rolling well, so he was just taking some damage, and then he's like, "Oh, a statue of me! Oh, it hates me! Oh!" Like he was so disappointed, and I was just so like, "This is fun. This is
Yep.
this is
And that statue's still floating around in the realm. It's currently in the Maze Garden, I believe.
oh cool."
Yeah, there's a statue of Greth pulling the finger in the
Yeah.
garden.
Which is
Yeah.
weird because that's like so not a Greth thing to do.
Oh,
Like
I know. That's what makes it so great.
it's like
Like he would
Greth's evil
never, but
twin
the
or something.
statue, yeah.
It has that angry expression on it, and Greth
Yep.
is so mellow.
Yeah. I think that just makes it better, though.
Yeah, it does. Oh, yeah, it does. I mean,
It's so
Greth doesn't agree, but I do.
no.
He's like, I don't
Okay.
want to be remembered this way.
Bless. That's just great. I love it. Um. Okay. So what about for Greth? Since that obviously wasn't great for him. It was great
Oh,
for you, but not great for him. What is a moment that has been great for him?
hmm. Oh, that's the how is it the Tome of Dosinia?
Yep.
He loved that it was a book of with knowledge and about nature and the world. Like that was like the most worth. He was like, oh, it's some magic item we're gonna go retrieve, some magic book, and he's like, no, this is stuff like useful. Hell, he's an
Yeah.
herbalist,
Yeah.
so like,
Oh yeah. Of
this is
course. Yeah.
really cool stuff. He was so thrilled. Everyone else was like, he's like, no, you guys are missing out. This is like the things to
This is a
do.
great. This is yeah.
Yeah, he was that. So that would be his favorite. He's just like, oh, I found all this knowledge, and like I also in it, thankfully stopped them from burning down the swamp it was located in. So he
Yep.
felt really useful there, and
Yeah.
like he
I suppose
really contributed.
lost secret knowledge is his jam, right?
Yeah, and like this
Yeah.
was like really useful knowledge too. Like nature and plants and things like that. He's like, oh, this is great. Like yeah, he loved that. He loved that mission.
I thought the basilisk thing was pretty great. That you pulled that off. I was just like, the dice have decided this is going to work. She just walked in and captured a sleeping basilisk without waking it up. That was pretty great. And you got some dogs out of that one
Yeah,
too.
okay. I was gonna say like the other one is kind of cheap, but it would be the dogs, getting the
Yeah.
dogs. He's like that's probably what, and the other thing he does besides with it is like training them and walking them around, and it's kind of walking the ladies' lands a bit with them because they're kind of small, so we can just
It's great.
Uh,
Flint and Pearl.
yep. They
Awesome.
look like
I
a
love
Flint
it.
and Pearl, don't they?
Yeah.
And they were stone, so I figured
Yeah, I can see that. Um, so you've got 5 missions left
Mm.
before your contract is up. Is there anything in those 5 missions that you kind of have planned ahead of you that you're particularly looking forward to? I don't know how much you've looked at or if you've booked any future ones yet, but
I have a couple books, so
mm.
but oh, I don't know. Not yeah. Like I said, I try to not get expectations because I'm one
Oh
of those
yeah,
people like I'll get them and then I just can't help but build things. Like if you tell me a
yeah,
movie's good and 5 other people tell me a movie's good, I can't watch it because I'll think it's the next biggest thing ever and I'll be
yeah,
disappointed. So I
yeah.
try to go in as open minded as possible because I don't want to get locked into like a certain thought and then go in there and like this isn't what I thought it was. I'd rather just see what you have planned and just it's a sense of wonder. And then like I really think D&D is about kind of exploring and getting hit with something you weren't expecting. And for me, that's like the funnest thing. So I try to keep that as much as I can because I have to admit, my rest of my life is definitely not unexpected usually, except for bad things.
Right. Because I try as a DM to go,
Mhm.
okay, this is the mission, and then subvert the expectations of it a little bit when you get there, so that it's not too predictable. Like that's what I try to do a lot of the time.
That's how they should be. I mean, like, there's
Yeah,
very few things I think, unless they're really hard, that should be what
yeah,
you expect. Like if you're going in and it's like, okay, this is gonna be super difficult. Okay, then maybe be straightforward with it because
yeah,
people need to mentally prepare themselves.
yeah. But
But
yeah, I
I
try
like,
to like give
yeah.
it a bit of a twist and make it, yeah.
And I think that's perfect. That's again, like why I was kind of glad I joined. Like it's that I enjoy that aspect of it a lot actually, and I
Mm.
think Greth does. I don't know if he's thought about it like that, like but he probably does at some level enjoy that, like just testing himself and like seeing things thrown at him that he's not ready for. Because
Yeah,
imagine living in a monastery. It's a lot of the same thing over and over again. It's hard, but it's just you
yeah.
know.
You know exactly what you're doing every day. Yeah.
And this is just, like it's kind of fulfilling in certain ways, for a monk who's trying to find himself a little bit more, trying to
Yeah.
find that next thing. I think his version of transcendence is a little probably different than like what we consider, but well, I mean, that's eventually what he's trying to do. I think, like, the one thing I think he would be satisfied with is if he managed to, I don't know, find the lost history of his people, like before the Ithalids
Oh,
came, or maybe write another religious text like Zerthamon did that kind of influenced his whole people.
yeah.
The prophet. Those kind of things. I think he's like really. I don't think he has the ego to say he wants to do that, but
No,
that would be
but
something like he's definitely not like, oh, I think that's gonna happen. But I think that's what would be the things that would definitely make him like really happy. So you could kind
that's
of come
cool.
up with those two things. So, but like I said, I think he's just too humble to believe that that's a thing he's going to be able to do. Because
He's
it's
so humble. He's just lovely.
that's what I went to.
Um,
Like a lot of adventures, you gotta be a bit brash to go into adventuring, and
yeah.
it's very like I'm like, well, he's a monk, so like he doesn't have to be brash, and he has a good reason to go out and do this stuff. So
Yeah. That's cool. Um, is there anything you would like to see us do in future missions that we haven't touched on so
hmm,
far? Give me
I,
ideas. This is what this is. It's me saying, give me ideas.
again,
Is
I would
there,
love an astral sea mission, like where you little bit of like just or not even necessarily just something like a little more unformed, but like people, the twist being people kind of accept that certain things always work and certain things happen, and like the world is predictable at a basic level to our
yeah,
characters. Something that would just be like, oh yeah, by the way, anytime you use magic, there's a wild surge. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
Or a place where like your speed is determined by your intelligence.
yep, yep. Just
uh,
yeah, twisting the rules of reality completely.
yeah, just so and just and I figure these one shots are perfect for that because you don't have to live with it too long, but then you
No,
can just
yeah,
get in there and get used to it and like get out. And some people will be like, "That was awesome," and other people are like, "Let's never come here again."
absolutely. I must admit that after the Save the Realm thing, where I had to actually go and look at all the planes in order to figure out how that would work, I'm definitely thinking about doing a lot more of those missions in those other planes. I feel like that would be really fun.
The lore is crazy for it, isn't it? It's so
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
looking for that stuff
it's
up.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just scratched the surface enough to figure out what potentially would come through those holes, but I'm just like, oh, there's so much here that I can
Oh,
play
I
with.
know. I know.
Yeah,
Like
so
I've done the same thing. I've always been, I've kind of been at it a while, and I've always loved the lore books for like different planes,
mm,
from all the editions, even as they've changed and morphed a bit. And
yeah,
so yeah, that's always been like like I think the campaign I've never run or played in, like a like a spelljammer or a planeswalker kind of thing.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
but it's always been like I've always loved the lore for it, reading all the how the the different realities, so to speak.
Mm. So there may be some of that coming up.
Oh, that would interest me
Like,
and Greg.
whoo, lots of cool interplanar stuff that I haven't really looked at that much as a DM, but like I had to for that event. So
Oh
now
yeah.
I have bits of it in my head, so I can go and explore them a little bit more in depth, which could be fun. So there we go. He might get his astral sea thing before,
Ah, cool.
or something like that,
You
in
say
the
that
next.
it'll be like Ravenloft or something. Ah!
Just like here's a random plane no one has ever thought of that Jack's just made up.
Oh, you could do that in Ravenloft. It's all scary and awful, but
Yeah, we're doing. Well, no, that's not relevant right now.
oh,
I was about to be like, our home game is Curse of Strahd, so we've been.
oh yeah.
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 Okay. I guess is there anything else you would like to tell us about Greth? What is Greth's biggest secret?
Hmm. Well, I think I kind of told you most of them. Really, it's like just he's not really
He's
like I
not.
said, he's trying to keep things humble. Like it's
Yeah.
just how I think this is his natural tendency. Really, it's um, and he's also I think the main thing is he's probably the biggest secret for him is that the reason he's probably not more he is not more involved is because he's like I said, he's got that foot out the door and he's probably a little ashamed of that. Like he's like these people are not unworthy. Like I'm not better than them. They're not unworthy of my attention, but at the same time I just don't want to get too attached because it might derail my plans.
Yeah. Oh.
So I mean, like it's not a big secret, but it's like definitely
Yeah.
something he would never admit to.
No.
But it
No.
it is kind of a thing where he's like kind of like that's kind of like one of the battles in his mind all the time is this kind of like he likes a lot of these people and he thinks what he's doing for the lady is very worthy.
Yep.
But he also realized getting to it, especially when he saw Reanth get attached to everybody. He's just like, she's
Yep.
just like, I'm never going back. And then he's like, he's not that. It's not him.
Yeah.
So
He actually does want to go back. Yeah.
yeah, and at least in some way, shape, or form. And again, so like he's worried that if he gets too involved, then he'll lose that. He's very
Yeah.
worried about losing kind of his goals.
Mm.
So that's kind of he fears that he fears, but that he's going to lose his purpose by being here too long.
Interesting. Do you think there's a conflict between him and Reanth over that? Because she's quite invested. She's like got the Gallant Horde logo tattooed on her and is very
Yeah.
loyal to the lady and very invested in these people. Do you think that there's conflict between them?
Interestingly, I think they avoid that conversation. I think they both have.
Okay.
I mean, like we've kind of talked a little bit about like our characters now, and like we're kind of like in such a happy place that we didn't think we were going to be in, because we thought it was gonna be hard. We're gonna
Yeah.
work some mercenary Fade campaign. Like we don't know what they're gonna ask of us, and and then end up being like, hey, it's a bunch of nice people. We do these random stuff, and it's kind of cool, and everyone's like having a good time. Like and it's safe pretty much. Like
Yep.
very or at least very rarely not safe. You can kind of predict. You know when it's gonna be not safe. So
Yep.
there's a comfort in that, and so like that's probably both probably don't want to rock that boat yet. It's like one of those things like they're just gonna burn that bridge when they come to it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
yes and no. Like I think they're both worried there might be, and they don't want to find out.
But they're
Not
not
yet, anyway.
actually
That's something.
actually
That's
dealing with
tomorrow's
it.
problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I don't really have any other questions unless you have anything else you would like to tell us.
Trying to think here. Yeah, no, I think. I mean, like I said, I kind of wrote like Guess to be at least simple to explain, even though there's a lot going on deep down there.
Yeah.
Like
Still
because
waters, man.
yeah, but like, and so like I'm sure that'd be interesting to me and maybe you, but I don't know if everyone else would find that.
I think you'd be surprised by how interested people are.
Yeah. See, it's weird because like I've been talking to me, and everyone thinks he's kind of mysterious, and I was like, really? I thought he was more aloof, but okay, I'll go with mysterious. I think Greth would like that.
Like
Yeah,
from the outside, those two can look very similar.
yeah.
He may not feel mysterious, but
Oh no, he
people
definitely doesn't. No.
people don't really know what's going on in his head, so he seems mysterious.
That's true, and he's very, like I'm guessing when he's not on missions, he's probably a lot more taciturn. He doesn't
Yeah.
taciturn. Sorry. He's like when he's on a mission, everything's new and crazy, and like, oh hey, we're going to this crazy herbalist shop guy, and look at, oh man, he organizes this stuff so weird. This is awesome. Like that's the stuff that intrigues him.
Yep.
And whereas he's here, he's kind of like, okay, this is home. All right, let's go work with my dogs, talk to my sister, and spend hours meditating and trying to improve myself.
Do you think he visits Amnon? I realize that Matt doesn't really have time to RP all that stuff, but like,
I think the same thing happens. Like he probably like, I would say he's definitely the kind of guy who would like go there, like walk by it a few times before he'd go in, and then like be very brief and just kind of look at stuff. And if he's busy, Amnon's busy, he would just kind of like walk out, or he'd try to ask a question, but he'd be afraid like, oh no, he's got other stuff to take care of. I don't want to get him in these weird theoretical debates because
he wants to be friends.
Yeah. But again, there's that same pull. Like he wants to be friends, but he doesn't want to get too friendly because then it's harder for him to leave later.
Yep. That's kind of interesting, honestly. Like I hadn't really picked that, so that is an interesting thing to know about him, that he has that thing going on. That's cool.
Yeah. But it's like I said, I think it's like one thing to be very hard to pick up on if you didn't know, or unless you were like, actively spying on him, then you would not be able to pick this up because he doesn't want to bother people either. He's like like he feels like if he is not intent on staying there, then what he's doing is an intrusion, to a bit. Like he doesn't want to intrude upon people. He wants them to be able to get on with their lives. He's very aware that life is a fragile, limited existence, and he wants people
Yeah.
to accomplish what they want to accomplish. That's what he's doing, and he doesn't want to infringe on other people's time that
Interesting. Well, I think he's lovely. I'm very
way.
fond of him. Um,
He'll be
um,
very sad when he dies, huh?
yep. Well, yes, but also someone's got to be the first, right?
Why not Greth?
Oh my goodness. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being part of this crazy thing that turned into something much bigger than I anticipated. It's been awesome, and I hope it has been fun for you.
Very much.
And I'm glad that it met your D&D needs at a time when apparently that was what you were looking for. That's awesome. And yeah, and we will see how things go over the next 5 missions. And see if I manage to kill you before you hit level 20.
If it's any consolation, he's prepared to accept death.
Doesn't surprise me.
Not
He's very
looking forward
sane.
to it, but he's prepared.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Oh, no worries. This is fun.
Everybody watching, thank you for watching, and hopefully this has given you some insight into this awesome character. We will catch you in your next game.
Yeah. See you in a month.
In a month. Well, not when people see this. It'll be like,
oh, that's right. That'll be
5 minutes time. But yes,
yeah.
Approximately a month from our recording. At least I can vaguely predict that probably Greth's not going to have some major personal things happen between the interview and the release of the interview, which has happened for like the last 4 of these that we've done. Because he just hangs out with his dogs. It's great.
Now I'm going to knock on wood for you for that, because you're like...
I'm tempting you now. Greth's going to suddenly start doing the RP. Get super involved in the Horde.
I'm going to steal my dogs, and I'm going to have to like get everyone to find them for me.
Ooh, maybe I could do something to you. No, that would be mean.
I'm
okay with killing characters. I'm not okay with killing dogs.
There's other things besides killing. They could just vanish or something like that. Or
there's a line, and that's my line.
So there won't be the rescue my puppy mission?
I mean, there could be a rescue your puppy mission. We could make that happen.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
Everyone watching, thank you for watching. We love you so much. Thanks for being part of this thing, and we will see you next time.